How's it going, guys? In this video, we're going to be going over some lane 8 sound design. I chose and we knew it was our time. I just really like the melody over the top. So I will play what I have and then we can start going through it. So this is broken out into 4 main layers. We have a top lead line that sounds like this. We have this arpeggio. We have this chord layer. And then just a sub layer underneath. So we will start with this top lead layer, and the MIDI looks like this. This little counter melody I have in another patch, but it's very similar. So the key to this sound was trying to find a wavetable that was very nasally or had a vocal character to it. That's what sounded like was happening in the original. So I was playing around in this codecs folder, and I ended up on this Jetstream sounds, and this is what it sounds like with just that. So it has more of a nasally character compared to just a saw wave. I also played with this remap. What I was doing is trying to change the harmonics a bit. You can see how the wavetable is affected as I move this. It's just another way you can slightly alter wavetables to get some harmonics that you want. So I have it at 3 voices, detune around 0.04, so we're getting a little bit of spread on that, a little bit of character. I also layered it with a saw wave because it sounded like there needed to be something pure behind it. But what I did is I went to that pencil there, process, remove fundamental. So the fundamental is being taken up by this oscillator mainly, but the second oscillator is giving us some of that high buzz that I wanted. So those two together. So essentially it sounds like a vocally nasally saw wave. Next, I dirtied it up, got some more high end with this 0 square distortion, which is very nice. It's kind of like this guitar distortion. Oh, and I also added some noise, just some bright white. I'm going to use this filter to roll off some of those very highs. And then I added some reverb, and what this is doing is giving us a huge space for it to live in. If you listen to the original track, this sound has this massive reverb behind it, but it's still very much in the center. And if you could hear some reverb before that, I had it sent to this return here, which has a little bit of reverb as well. But that is the synth for the most part. So this EQ, next, what I was doing was trying to emphasize some of the frequency areas that needed to pop out in the mix, and also emphasizing that nasally character. So it sounds kind of like an ah sound. Some more reverb. I was just doubling up on reverbs a lot, trying to create that huge space. This EQ, what it's doing is cutting out some of the harsh frequencies that I didn't like hearing. And it also helps to make the sound feel like it's in the background even more. This final EQ, I was just doing some final mixing. I'm just taking some of the 1K out. And then this utility, I'm pushing it slightly more into the middle again, so it feels kind of more distant. And then just some gain to boost it up. But that is it for that sound. This counter line is essentially the same thing, but I just have a different wavetable in here. So that one sounds like this. And I also have some delay on it on the 8 setting. So those two leads together sound like this. So next we can move on to this ARP sound, which is probably my favorite sound. So the MIDI looks like this for the first measure. 1 second, 2. So this sound is pretty basic, to be honest. It's just a single saw wave. So just a single saw wave. And what I did is I threw this envelope 1 release up. It sounds like this. If I turn that down to where it would be at the start, I think the release just ties the notes together and makes it have more of that melodic analog-y feel. I have this LFO1 that's on the fine tuning just a little bit. So we're getting a little bit of randomness in the pitch for every note. That helps it to have that analog-y feel as well. Then I'm using this filter and I have envelope 2 on it, and that's to give us a slight more plucky sound to it. You can see that it's not modulating the cutoff too much, so it's still more of a sustained sound. A big thing for this is to round it off with some resonance. If I take that down, it just feels a little bit more dead and digitally. Turn that resonance back up. It just feels a little bit more organic, I'd say. I have this compressor to control it, maybe emphasizing the attack a little bit, but not too much. You can hear that each of the plucks now has a little bit more of a distinct start to the sound. I threw some plate reverb on it to finish it off. I like the plate reverb because it has a more shimmery character to it. The hall reverb is a little bit darker, but you can get some nice high frequencies with the plate reverb. So I have some EQ, again, just a little bit of mixing there, not too much. This limiter is cutting off maybe some of the high peaks. We're also getting a little bit more volume, so we're getting those LUFs up a little bit by squishing it with the limiter. And then this delay set on the 4 setting, we're just getting some nice delayed hits. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the ARP and the top lines. Together they sound like this. So moving on to the chords next. The MIDI for that looks like this. So this is a pretty simple sound as well. It's pretty much just a basic super saw. So I have a saw wave, 9 voices, detune around 0.07. And if you can see right here, those lower notes are getting fairly low. We're even hitting like that B below that C0. So that starts to get a little bit gritty sounding in the very low end. So I like to roll that off because the higher harmonics of those low notes are actually pretty nice to hear, and they fill out the low end in a nice way. So I use this high pass filter, took the cutoff up around to like 70 hertz. So it's starting to cut off the lows. Some compression with a fast attack and release. So we're catching any of those harmonic bumps that are appearing. So it's just giving us this nice uniform compressed sound. I actually threw on some hall reverb just to give it some more space. So after that, I was EQing to mix it in. This third note, I was taking out some of those harsh frequencies. that we're showing up, rolling off some more of that low end and the very high end. So now we have more space for the lead elements to really shine. This side EQ, taking out some of the lows, so we're getting more of a consistent mono signal in the low end. And then this auto filter is just for playing around at the ends. That is it for the chords. So with the ARP and the top lines, it sounds like this. So that is pretty much the entire thing. Finally, just a sub layer with those low notes from the chords. And I'm just using the sub oscillator, and that is it. So that is everything for the synths. For the drums, all I was doing was trying to recreate kind of that lane 8 sound. So I have a top kick, low kick, and some cymbal crashes. The top and low are being grouped along with the crash with this glue compressor. And the top kick is actually very low in volume to the low. And this is something I saw deadmau5 do. Basically, when you're compressing your kicks together, that high end, the very start of the kick, is going to pass through the compressor because it's happening before the compressor clamps down usually. So you're going to be bringing up that high anyway. So if you play around with the volume of the top kick, you can start to get the attacks of your kicks properly mixed. And then I just threw on a clap loop and a hat loop, and that is pretty much it for the entire thing. So if I play everything together once again, it sounds like this. And then my favorite way to play around with this was to filter the chords down, take this top line out. So that is pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed it. This project is up on the Patreon already if you'd like to view it and play around with it. It's in the $10 tier, so you get access to every single project file that I've created. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.